We are live once again. I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. We got some work happening next door to me. Hopefully, it is not going to interfere too much with the sound. But let me know how you guys are doing. We're here to chat about Freemasonry once again. Reminder tomorrow, August 21st, 2 p.m., 24-hour live stream, which is going to be an absolute blast. Today, 3 p.m. Insta Live. We're going to see how that goes. I've never done an Instagram Live before, so I'm curious to see how it goes. And August 24th, 6 p.m., we are having the release of my most recent Medium article, where we will be discussing lessons we can take from Steve Jobs' ideas, philosophies, his approach to technology, his approach to management that we can apply within Freemasonry. But for now, let's give it some time. Let's see who joins. And as always, what do you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry? Today's topic is going to be the 5 elements of psychological first aid. Why I think that is a type of certification that I think every Mason should get. It's $20 here in at least Ontario. It cost me to do an online course. So hello, Dad. How's it going? I hope that you are doing well. Don't forget to hit that like button to everybody joining us. I hope you're looking forward to joining tomorrow at 2 p.m. for the 24-hour live stream. Your name's going to come up a few times, Dad, especially because some of the items I'm going to be showing off are going to be things I got either from you or from Kilcona Lodge or from either of my grandparents, your father-in-law or your father, my grandparents. So that'll be really grandfathers, I should say. So that'll be really fun also. But for now, we're gonna wait. And by the way, yesterday was World Photography Day. So I shared on some of my socials the links to my Instagram accounts. I have 3 accounts on Instagram. One general account, and then one account that focuses on the interior of Masonic buildings, and one that focuses on the exterior of Masonic buildings, and or the facades therein. And I shared the links, so follow me on Instagram, follow me on all those accounts to check out some of my Masonic photography. I guess it does a little bit. It has kind of a weird sound to it, but really it just means how do you approach someone or deal with somebody who may be suffering from some type of emotional crisis. For example, maybe there was a fire and they've just lost their home. They're not themselves injured, but they're dealing with the stress and emotional trauma of having lost their home. How do you approach them and deal with them in that time to both make sure they're safe and also that they're able to have some level of hope or connectedness or even self-efficacy, so they know how to proceed or they're comfortable proceeding forward. And it could be up to and including mental health challenges as well that they may be experiencing. There is no one solution. It's very likely you may not be able to do anything, but at least you know you've got the training that you can try to do something and feel confident that you did the best you could in that scenario. It is, like I said, I got the course through, once again, very sorry about the work. I got the course through Red Cross. So, and by the way, I've talked about this before, but I have known, unfortunately, Freemasons who've passed away, who committed suicide. I did not know them well, but I did know them. I've also known some Masons who have gone through some very, challenging times and reached out to the Masonic Lodge. Sometimes Masons don't have anybody else to reach out to and feel the need to reach out to a Masonic brother for support. So you're not wrong, although that is one of the elements of psychological first aid, or more specifically, one of the things that we're told not to do, right, is to try to diagnose or try to be a professional. The goal is to get them to a professional as quickly as possible so that they can talk to someone, and not to do things like not to do things like try to take over the role of, let's say, a professional. Hello, Ahmed. I hope you're doing well. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I hope that you are doing well, right? As it says, helping responsibly. Um, One of the rules is understand your skill and competence. Don't try to do more than you can. Don't try to do more than you should. Don't try to do more than you have been trained to do. Ensure safe environments. Do not try to diagnose somebody. Things like that. Try to provide safe environments. Try to respect people. Try to provide integrity to them, dignity, and empathy. Like I said, there may be Masons who, for whatever reason, maybe they're older, maybe they don't have any family, maybe their family's all passed away, and they're looking for someone they can reach out to for support. In those cases, the Masonic Lodge may be the one area that they have that they can reach out to. We'll talk about it about an hour in. The first bit of time, though, is just us hanging out, waiting to see who wants to join and who wants to chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts they have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Welcome back, Emmeline. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you for being here. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Thank you for leaving a comment on my video. I really appreciate it. Please make sure you leave a few comments. The more comments I get, the better it is for the algorithm, that wonderful algorithm we all talk about. And I hope that you'll join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. for the 24-hour live stream. I also hope, by the way, that you'll join me on Instagram. I have an Instagram live happening today, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. or thereabouts. It might not go right till 6 p.m. per se, but I'll start at 3 p.m. Eastern, so in about 2 hours. So I hope you'll join me for that as well. I'm not used to doing Instagram live spaces, so this will be kind of a new thing. That's good, Emmeline. I'm glad. We're just going to wait to see who else finds us, and then once again, we're going to start chatting about Freemasonry. I'm going to start talking about psychological first aid a little bit, why I think it's valuable for Masons to consider getting it, as well as just other things in general. So, but I think that's going to be the main topic. By the way, it is, as I mentioned before, was yesterday, World Photography Day. So check out my Instagram accounts for pictures of my Masonic journey, as well as the Masonic buildings, which I've been lucky enough to visit over the last several years. We got 3 votes. Looks like we had 1 person who's heard of psychological first aid before, 2 who haven't. So let's get a bit more time. Let's see who else joins. And like I said, in the meantime, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and if there's anything that you guys want to chat about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, as well as anything else you want to talk about. And if you've not received as of yet the the items that you get as being a patron, please let me know. For some reason, I think both things that I mailed didn't make it to their destinations, which is quite annoying. So I'm going to be sending out 2 more letters probably on Monday. If you don't get them by Monday, please let me know and I'll send them to you. Well, Mr. Upside Down Face Dooney, thank you for being here. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Again, about the hour in is where we're going to start talking specifically about psychological first aid and why I think it is a um, what's the word I'm looking for? A certification worth getting as a Freemason or worth Freemasons getting. So, and please don't forget also 3 p.m. Instagram. Follow me there. It's very important because I share a lot of Masonic insights on Instagram. And I'm going to be live streaming there at 3 p.m. So in about 2 hours. So this is going to be a shorter live stream than usual. Good coffee because I got my 3 p.m. live stream on Instagram. And then after that, I'm going to go get some Indian food. But I cannot wait to share everything with you guys tomorrow in terms of all my items. I mean, I was looking through, it's just incredible the amount of stuff I actually have to share that I forgot about. In some cases, going through these, like, you look at this, oh, this is going to fall. I've got to find one that's not going to fall right now. Like, you look through this, this is full of memories and photographs and pictures and certificates and a million things that all relate to Freemasonry. In some cases, there's even blank pages in here, which I hope that doesn't mean I lost something somewhere along the line. But it's going to be really, really fun and really worth checking out. I've got stuff from basically as far back as when I joined in 2007 to 2025. And so it's going to be really fun to explore all of that with my audience. So please make sure you are joining me. Like, phew. We're just going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who else jumps on the chat to say hello. Might be a lot of people getting ready and waiting tomorrow for the 24-hour live stream, which will be a lot of fun. I'm also probably going to go on my personal account, personal YouTube account at some point today, just to remind people of what we've got happening tomorrow. Because I try to make sure I go on both accounts regularly. Well, but I mean, that's why I'm not a fan, to be perfectly honest, of the name of the first aid because it's not psychological in the sense that you're diagnosing people, right? Somebody, you like again, you may be, it's the type of first aid you provide to somebody where, again, maybe they have been in a fire or their house has burned down. They're physically okay. They haven't suffered any physical injuries and they have no diagnosed mental illnesses. But in that moment, dealing with the trauma of having their house burned down or whatever it is, like how do you approach them and deal with them in that moment? Let's say you're the first one on the scene. Let's say it's your neighbor's house and your neighbor runs over to you, um, to use your phone or whatever it is. How do you in that moment help them kind of get to a place of calm and hope for the future and not kind of dwelling as much as possible in the immediate problems, right? Like I've told this story before, but during COVID, um, so I don't know how many lockdowns they had everywhere in the world. Here in Ontario, if I recall correctly, we had four. lockdowns. And each lockdown lasted for various lengths of time, from a few weeks to I think a few months. And whenever we would have another lockdown in Ontario, I, as the secretary of my lodge, would call the membership. There was at that time, I believe, 63 members or thereabouts in the lodge that I would contact and call to see how they're doing, and if there's anything that they wanted to, talk about, if there's anything they needed, if, for example, the lockdowns were affecting them financially, their physical health, if maybe, heaven forbid, they caught COVID or somebody else did, how do you deal with that? Or do they need help? Just seeing how they're doing, basically. So I called one person on the list and a member, and I said, "How's it going?" And he said, "Well, I guess I'm okay. I'm just planning to kill myself." And then I said, "Well, we should talk about that." And he said, "I'm just kidding. I would never do it." And I said, "Well, you said it, so I think we should still talk about it." The point is, I was lucky in that moment because I had been a probation officer for 5 years, and I had worked in a jail for about 5 years. And one of the trainings that we got was on how to deal with people who are suicidal or suffering from mental health issues or whatever it might be, um, and that type of training. And honestly, though, if I could break down the training very simply, it's you're not going to make things worse by talking to somebody, so don't be afraid to approach somebody if you're worried or concerned about them. Um, and this was a Freemason. He was a brother, so I wanted to be able to talk to him. Uh, the training, I don't even know if the training made that much of a difference in what I said to him, but for me, it just made me feel better to know I had it and to not panic as much. Um, and again, that's one of those situations where maybe he felt he couldn't say those things to his family, or maybe he felt more comfortable talking to a brother or a non-professional or whatever it might be. Um, I don't know if he was ever diagnosed. It's not my place, nor it's not my place to diagnose anybody with anything, nor is that the goal. But it was good that I had that training in advance to be able to be comfortable talking to him, and not freak out and not second guess myself. He's still walking around for whatever it's worth. Um, but yeah, I think, we as Freemasons may find ourselves in a time where a brother is reaching out to us to talk to us who's experiencing psychological trauma. He had some, this brother had some, shall we say, interesting ideas, if that's the right word, about COVID and government and, what he thought COVID represented. And so that was kind of where those were coming from. So it was good to know I had that training and the psychological first aid training on Red Cross. It cost me $20 to sign up for the online course, and it's wonderful to have. I'm about 33% of the way finished right now, but I'll talk to you about some of the things I've seen in it thus far. And, even for this stream, like, part of me worries what happens if, while I'm on the stream, somebody jumps on the chat and says they're thinking of hurting themselves, or they're struggling, or they're having a really hard time, or whatever it might be. Do I have some type of training to be able to approach them, at least virtually, and know what to say? If someone jumps on the stream and says maybe something terrible, like I'm thinking of hurting myself, or I'm just going through a really hard time right now, or I'm struggling, right? And honestly, a lot of the training comes down to trust yourself. You know what to do. You're not going to make things worse. If anything, I think the training is as much for the psychological first aid provider's confidence as it is for anything else. This stream is about Freemasonry, Ilker. It's about things I think that Freemasons can do to potentially make their lives better, or to make the lives of their lodges and their brothers better. So I hope you will hit the like button and the subscribe button. And I hope Ilker, I hope Priscilla, I hope Emmeline, that you will all join me tomorrow for my 24-hour live stream. Don't you want to know the story behind all these pins and all my coins and all my aprons and everything else I've got. Who wouldn't want to know that? So, um, but yeah, for $20, I've said it before, but I think the five qualifications every Mason should have should be psychological first aid, regular first aid with CPR, smart serve, accessibility training, food service, and I guess six would be WMIS because a lot of Masonic buildings have a lot of Masonic buildings have a lot of especially like cleaning products are often stored. Sometimes they may have boilers or older equipment that has specialized chemicals to clean it or to use. Um, and I think knowing how to handle those things is incredibly valuable. Yes, it does, John G. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I have a big forehead. I've grown to accept it. Luckily, I have taken my psychological first aid, so your comments do not psychologically affect me. But I do hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button, um, despite my big forehead, or maybe because of my big forehead. And please forgive the sound of the work happening across the hall. I hope it doesn't. I hope it is not affecting anything too much. Let me know if it's bugging you guys. Knock on wood, it's somewhat quiet tomorrow. Hello, Nasreen. I hope you'll hit the like button and subscribe button. Thank you for being here. Why not a subscribe? Why can't I get a subscribe too for the big forehead? Why must it just be a like, you know? Well, John G, I think I'm going to have to block that one or remove that one. Please take a moment. If you are just joining us, let me know how it's going and if there's any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. You mean the sound happening in the background? That is somebody doing work on the apartment across the way from me, which I'm hoping it won't be happening tomorrow because it's going to interfere with my stream. Maybe I'll ask them to not make, not do any work tomorrow if I can help it. But technically it's their apartment and they can work on it from, I guess, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So about an hour in, so another 40 minutes, we will start on the main topic, which is going to be psychological first aid. Another reminder to follow me on Instagram because yesterday was World Photography Day. Well, it's not contractors, luckily. There's no contractors working on it. It's just the individual homeowner or apartment owner or condo owner himself doing it. But he's a good dude. I like him a lot. He's a really good person. So, um, I can't complain too much. He's always they feed me often, so I can't complain too much about that. I would be curious to know. I don't know how you would even do this as a test, but it would be really interesting, I think, to do a. Yeah, I know the background's very annoying. To do a study, um, to do a study of, how many Freemasons have families or supports in the community that they would go to if facing some type of psychological or just emotional trauma versus how many would have nobody to communicate with or would communicate exclusively with Freemasons. All right, Ilker, make sure to leave some hearts in before you go if you can, or some 100s or some whatevers, some of those before you run, and go to school. That's the most important thing. And thank you for being here as always. The reactions, those 100s that are popping up on the screen. Well, it's not nighttime here. It's 1 p.m. over here. So I figured you might have to go back to school. We're just going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who else joins, and then we'll start on the main subject. But like I said, it's going to be psychological first aid, why I think we as Freemasons should consider getting this training. It cost me $20. And like I said, I've known Freemasons who have hurt themselves, not well, but I knew them. I've also known Freemasons who've gone through some pretty significant struggles and psychological struggles. And having the time to, I think, chat with them and communicate with them and having the confidence to do so, I think, is a really beneficial thing and worth taking a couple hours to train for. Well, physiological training would be a whole different thing. Physiological training, uh, I don't know about that. Although we all do psychological training, I suppose, somewhat with the people we can, with our friends and with our family. It's kind of our nature, right, to a certain extent, to spend time communicating um, with people and thinking about their psychological state, which we should. It makes no sense to focus exclusively on the physical health of somebody if their psychological health is not good, and vice versa as well. I've said it a million times. We as Freemasons have a responsibility to care for our health, and that includes our psychological health, and that includes the psychological health and mental health of those around us. It can't just be that we focus exclusively on our physical health at an expense of everything else, in my opinion. Well, so psychological, it's just the type of first aid training I've taken. I've already taken, I don't know what to call it even, traditional first aid and CPR training. So, what to do if somebody needs CPR, what to do if somebody's having a heart attack, a stroke, falls down. I have that certification that lasts for 3 years. But what do you do if someone is having a mental health crisis of some sort? Like I said, maybe they're contemplating harming themselves, maybe they are struggling, maybe they lost their home and they need somebody to talk to. How do you approach them? If you're worried, what do you say? Not, you're not going to make things worse by approaching them, just to make it clear. But I think we as Freemasons need to consider how we have this training. So if a brother is struggling, he knows that we will go see him. He knows that he has somebody he can talk to. And we feel confident approaching them and talking to them, which is just as important, right? It's not just for them, it's for us and being confident in knowing that we can approach them. Otherwise, we might start to second guess ourselves. I hope everybody is doing well, though. Please take a moment to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. And if there's anything you want to talk about, join me on Instagram at 3 p.m. And in the meantime, um, let me know what's going on. I'm making sure to share my um, stuff with everybody. And well, I appreciate that, but I'm going to say it over and over again because I want to make sure that, um, I'm not just, it's not just you. People come in and out of the stream. And as they come in and out of the stream, I want to make sure that I'm reaching them and that they hear me. So. Well, thank you, Mr. Keeps on Ticking. And by the way, um, I I'm guessing you have not received your letter yet because it's well sent Thursday. I feel like by now, Wednesday, it should have made its way to you. So if you don't get it by Monday, the 25th, I'm going to resend the package to you. I'm going to resend the package to Courtney as well. And I'm going to get it tracked and send you the tracking number. Because I sent both and both haven't arrived yet. So I'm curious what's going on or why we're not getting them. So that is true. But like I said, if not by Monday, uh, I will be sending it again. I've got a few extras that I can send. It's no trouble. It's kind of it's the annoyance of having to, what's the word I'm looking for? Having the cost of tracking, but that's okay. It's worth it. You sent me that awesome coffee, so I can make sure to send you the the items, which you deserve anyways because you became a patron. Don't forget patreon.com. That's good, Ilker. I have my first aid kit. Actually, I'm going to show it because I got a fancy first aid kit. I'll be right back. This is my first aid kit. I'm very fond of it. It's got a lot of stuff in it. I always bring this with me um, when I'm going to a wrestling event and I'm refereeing. I have it with me in case I need it. I also am very happy I have my first aid training for being a professional wrestling referee. If heaven forbid something happens in the ring, I hopefully will know how to respond. Um, I mean that I do know how to respond because mistakes happen, accident happens, bad things happen, whatever it might be, and I want to make sure that I know how to. I want to make sure I know how to respond. I'm confident responding, especially because I would hate to make something worse and injure somebody more. Good, good. No, Mr. Keeps on ticking. I know this is something I talked about. Oh, so you're even ahead of me. I mean, I'm not a prepper, so I don't really have any of that stuff. But I do have a fair number of first aid items. The prep stuff, maybe wouldn't it be a bad idea to have some of that stuff, right? I'm not uh, I'm not opposed to trying to be responsible if that responsibility includes trying to knowing that you're prepared in case of emergency, then maybe all the better. Might be worth Masonic lodges considering having extra, let's say, water and food in the building in case something happens and for whatever reason they can't leave the building for a length of time. Like maybe, who knows? There's a stay in place order because there's an earthquake or a weather event or an active shooter in the community or who knows what. Might be worth considering. That's one thing I ask Masons is, do you know um, where the first aid kit is located in your Masonic building, right? If there was an emergency and you had to get the first aid kit quickly, would you know where to find it? Would you know what's in it? Is it regularly stocked? Is it regularly protected? Or not stocked, protected. Is it regularly stocked? Do people check to make sure the items in there are not expired? Because medications can expire over time, right? Um, so it's worth I think it's worth asking those questions. Do you have a fire emergency? Do you know what happens if there is a fire? All that stuff matters a lot. I think I wrote the Medium article on disaster relief. So I don't know if other groups are into it, like Mr. Keeps on Taking. I don't know if um, what am I trying to say? Like, I don't know, for example, if let's say churches, for example, have those things in mind, but I assume there's some meetings about like if something happens in our church, heaven forbid, but if let us say um, somebody has a heart attack, do we know who in the church has first aid? Do we know where the first aid kit is? Do we have a plan to call the police if, knock on wood, it never happens? If there's an active shooter, do we have processes in place? I think that stuff is worth exploring for any group, but I think especially for Freemasonry, we need to know these things. Hello, EA Freemason. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. I hope that you are doing well. I was saying, if you don't receive your package by Monday, I'm going to be resending it and I'm going to be tracking it. I should have tracked it the first time. It's my fault for not taking the time to track it, but that's on my list of things to do. I'm going to wait till Monday to make sure. Good. Maybe that's some type of weird, because I know Mormonism and Freemasonry, right? The founder of Mormonism was a Freemason. Maybe that's some of a weird Masonic, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, echo in Mormonism, prepared in that manner. Because I do think, as a general rule, Freemasonry is somewhat better at having some of those things in place than other civic groups, but not nearly as much as we should. Happy, is it Mason Day in Brazil? Spirit? Mason Day. I did not know that. I was just in Brazil and I loved it. Okay. Some sources mention August 20th as a day related to Freemasonry in Brazil due to Independence Proclamation occurring in a Masonic lodge. This interpretation is not universally um, accepted. Okay. That is really cool. I'm going to share that. Thank you for telling me that, Spirit of Justice. I had no idea. And I was just in Brazil a month ago and loved it, by the way. Brazil is an incredible, incredible, incredible place. So I say I was in Brazil. I want to reframe that. I was in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I loved Rio. One thing that does bug me is people will say I visited Canada and they'll mean they visited Toronto for 4 days. There's a lot of Canada. Toronto's a great city, but there's a lot more to Canada than Toronto or Vancouver or whatever it is. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm some type of Brazilian expert, but I loved Rio de Janeiro. I loved the brothers there. I loved the people there. Beautiful, beautiful people. And very kind people too. Sometimes a little bit too kind. One thing I found is both in Brazil and when I was in the Philippines, in Manila, uh, it was the fun of I'd be wheeling down the street and somebody would, without telling me, would come behind me and just start pushing my wheelchair for me, which I think was them trying to be nice. However, when you're not prepared for it, it's a very strange feeling. As near as I can tell, it would be like if you're walking on the sidewalk and the sidewalk just starts moving without you being prepared for it. It's a very strange, strange feeling. So, but no, and I've said it before, I think on this stream, my favorite, the best Masonic meal I ever had was at a Masonic meeting in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. So that is very fond memories. And a lot of those pictures are on my Instagram account. I think I mentioned this before as well. Yesterday was World Photography Day. And because it's World Photography Day, check out my Instagram accounts. You can see photographs from all of my travels across Freemasonry, across the world. including my pictures of me in Brazil and pictures of me in the Philippines. I hope everybody's doing well. We will be, as I was saying, in 15 minutes or so, talking about psychological first aid training a little bit. I apologize for the sound of construction happening across the hall from me. Hopefully, as I say that, it just starts up again. Hopefully, it won't be going on for too much longer. And hopefully, it's not around tomorrow. But even if it is, it's still going to be fun showing off all of my Masonic items. Yeah, and Mr. Keeps on Ticking, what you say about the Mormon, I mean, no, travel light, travel far. That is one of my mantras, as I would consider myself a professional traveler. So, I would 100% say travel light, travel far is something that I live by as a Freemason. It's one of my recommendations. I've written about how you can travel as a Freemason, um, or like, because Masonic travel is different than non-Masonic travel. People don't realize it, but it is the case. There are unique things about Masonic travel, and one of the things I always recommend is travel light, travel far. Don't bring more than you need, because if you're going from Masonic Lodge to Masonic Lodge to Masonic Lodge and you're carrying an extra like two backpacks, that weight's going to get to you eventually. You're going to get tired. So travel light. I do not know enough about technology to even guess at that. Um, I've talked before. It's funny because we talked a bunch about Apple. So that you'd think that I would go with Apple by default, but and I do like Steve Jobs a lot and like his philosophies. But in terms of the type of knowledge to get, I have no idea. All religions it rejected me because I'm just too good looking, and I would be distracting in the lodge function in the religious functions. They'd all be looking at me because I'm so attractive. Dad says a church in Winnipeg had a man who was going through mental breakdown, attacked a preacher during a service with a knife. Fortunately, he wasn't hurt. So I'm glad he wasn't hurt. I'm glad the congregation stepped in and held him down. And certainly, that might be one of those things where it just is what it is and you have to do it. Um, Maybe if someone had spoken to that person a few months before the breakdown and had some type of training in it, maybe they could have helped him make the decision to get some help for himself. Because I think ultimately the goal is not to force anybody to get training or to get help, but rather we used to call it motivational interviewing in the world of probation, to get them to see that they need help themselves and get them to want to take steps to help themselves. You're not always successful, but you try. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And there's been, Masonic lodges have experienced attacks, vandalism, arson, all that jazz. So these are Masonic teeth. Well, they're British teeth. I don't know if you're saying they're ugly teeth. I got a big gap in them, I know. I've actually got another dentist appointment coming up on August 29th. But I've been getting my teeth fixed because I'm not the best at taking care of myself. So there is that. All right. I'm going to This guy is trolling, so let's just put him on a little bit of a timeout over here. Maybe he'll be back on tomorrow. Who knows? I mean, I will say I've been a big fan of the Samsung Galaxy for streaming. I've been impressed by it. Let me know what you guys think in terms of the sound and in terms of there is that in terms of the sound and in terms of the picture. I've been impressed with it. I think it's pretty good. Um, so I've been impressed with it. Let me know what you guys think of it. No, so yeah, so unfortunately, sometimes there's nothing you can do, right? I think one of the dangers that you can have in trying to prepare yourself is you start to feel like you should be able to solve every problem or solve any problem or whatever it might be. And the truth is, sometimes there's nothing you can do. Sometimes there's just nothing that can be done. And the problem's going to happen no matter what. But even then, at least you have the comfort of knowing you tried your best and did all that you could in order to try to solve the problem. And then if you don't succeed, you don't succeed. Like one of the things I often think about is one of these movies that I really enjoy called Seven with Brad Pitt. If you watch that movie, the police actually don't really do anything to solve the crimes. At the end of the movie, um, the guy just turns himself in. But that doesn't mean that what the police were doing was not in and of itself valuable. Because just because you don't win that battle doesn't mean you won't win the next one or the next one. So don't let the failures. Well, I've said this actually in my Medium story that's being released on August 24th. Your failures are not failures unless you quit. And by the same token, your success isn't a true success if you quit. In both cases, it's about are you able and willing to keep going and keep fighting for what you believe in and what you want, even if you experience either a success or a failure. Right? I do think one of the things which this is kind of this applies to Freemasonry as well as almost anything else. One thing that really does concern me is we in Freemasonry, if we try something and it doesn't work, we're very quick to just give up and say, well, there's no point in trying again because we failed. As opposed to saying, just because it failed this time doesn't mean we can't learn from that failure and try to make things better the next time. In the same token, sometimes in Freemasonry we'll have a success. However, we'll go, well, we had our success, so therefore we don't need to keep trying. This guy, I will say this to his credit, Lord of the Rings has like a million different accounts because he keeps on showing up, which I don't know. Very impressive, I will say that. He is dedicated to my stream. Which, I mean, it works for me in terms of the algorithm because it keeps him chatting. And the more people chatting, the better it is for people finding the stream. But that's a whole other can of tuna. And once again, please forgive the super fun sound of work happening in the background. But it's my neighbor, so it's okay. And actually, to add even more fun, tomorrow, at some point during the day, they're coming in to check out my electrical box in my apartment. So that will be fun. But hopefully it will be before I start my stream and won't be interfere too much. Nice. What was the project you finished? Mr. Keeps on Ticking. But also congratulations on that. It's always good when you manage to get something crossed off the list, whatever that might be. And 10 votes, psychological first aid training, 8 yes, 2 no's. Okay. No worries. I'm just happy that you got the work finished, or you got the project finished. I know it is a really good feeling to um I know it's a really good feeling when you are able to get something done like that. So, welcome back, Ahura. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you'll join me on the 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I hope that you are having a great, great day and a great time. I'm going to be talking about psychological first aid. This work happening across the hall is affecting my psychological first aid at the moment, but that's okay. Shortly. And Mr. Kizigan, yeah, you mentioned the vertical stream on my 24-hour live stream. I may do 12 hours on my phone this vertical way, and 12 hours um and 12 hours on my laptop with my webcam, in order to try the full screen to see how that goes. Because I do agree, I think some people do really prefer the full screen to the vertical screen. Although I tend to prefer vertical streaming myself. But I hope that everybody watching this is doing well. 5 minutes, we're going to start talking about psychological first aid and why I think we as Freemasons should consider getting it for ourselves, to help our brothers, to help our members. But that will be in about 5 minutes. And by the way, for me personally, it cost me $20 Canadian. So 16 or $17 American, maybe, in order to take part in it. But I'm assuming every jurisdiction probably has its own version of that. So, right, its own kind of psychological first aid training that maybe will be certified in your particular neck of the woods. And don't forget, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., we're going to be rocking out the Insta Live, which is something new for me. We'll see how it goes. But I believe that we as Freemasons, I'm always saying, we should always be open to trying new things. You know, you're creating all these accounts, Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings. I hope that you would be good enough to subscribe to me while you're doing this. If nothing else. But at least I'm getting the views. I guess actually what we'll probably do is we can probably get started now. So, main topic of today, psychological first aid. The psychological first aid is the humane, supportive, practical response to those suffering from a crisis event. And a crisis event is a major event outside of ordinary experiences that is threatening to those involved, causes feelings of powerlessness, helplessness, or terror. House burns down, natural disaster, mental health crisis. Um, Maybe it could be a child finds himself or herself lost and needs to find safety and support. Um, as the person providing psychological first aid, you help people access the resources they need to eventually be able to support themselves. It's not about it's not about you supporting them so much as giving them the tools and the calmness to help make sure that they support themselves. And you do that by providing a sense of calm, encouraging hope, as well as ensuring people's safety and connecting them with family and friends. All of these factors play a part in building people's capacity to recover. So the five elements of psychological first aid, and let's imagine I'm a Freemason, and let's imagine that I receive a phone call from a brother, and he tells me that uh, his house has burned down, and he's really struggling with that at the moment, and he feels like he has nowhere to go and turn to get help for himself and his family. So the five elements I'm going to want to deal with him as I'm providing psychological first aid is safety, first and foremost, calm, connectedness, self and group efficacy, and hope. So the first one, safety, right? So if it is a case that he's told me his house has burned down, the first thing you want to do is, okay, is the house like currently burning down, or has it already happened? Are you in a safe place? Are you in a place that you're not going to get injured? If or burned or anything like that, if you were in the house when there was a fire, have you been to the hospital to check if maybe you're suffering from smoke inhalation or some other type of injuries as caused by the fire? But physically, are you no longer exposed to any harm, and have you been checked out? The next thing is going to be helping people meet their basic needs. So, okay, you tell me your house is burned down, your basic need of shelter might be in jeopardy. Do you need a place to stay? Do we as Freemasons, are we able to help you find a place to stay? Can you stay with a Masonic brother? And if that person has a family, can he stay with a Masonic brother as well in order to, at least for the short term, so his basic needs are met? Do you need to provide him with some type of financial assistance or material assistance? Do you need to start, for example, a GoFundMe, provide benevolence? Whatever it is to make sure that in this crisis, he's able to be financially set, as well as have the materials he needs to be set, at least for the short term. Help people obtain emergency medical attention. Again, if his house burned down and he was there or his family was there, is there some type of, are you going to remember to ask him, have you been to the hospital? Do you need to go to the hospital? Has somebody called 911? Is there an ambulance present? In the moment of your talking to him, will you be remembering those things? And will he remember those things? Provide comfort. Provide simple, accurate, and up-to-date information. So, am I, as a Freemason, aware of the resources that this person can take advantage of in order to meet those basic needs? Do I know how to get in touch with the person in the Masonic Lodge who's in charge of benevolence? Do I have a list of people with whom maybe you can stay or crash, who has a spare bedroom for you? Do I know all of that stuff? And respecting the cultural norms of the person calling. So if this is a Mason and maybe not just culturally per se, but he's the type of person who tends to be very uncomfortable asking for help or support. Are you going to respect that? You're not going to call him, say, hey, dumbass, ask for help, but rather respect him, maybe nervous asking for help, and just give him a chance to approach you directly and ask and not force him into it. And then also respect maybe what abilities he has, things like that. So let's say he's in a wheelchair like me. When you're thinking of places he can stay or his family can stay while they're dealing with the house burning down, you're not going to suggest he travel to, he stay with a brother who lives in an apartment complex and is on the top floor and there's no elevators. You want to think about like, okay, where can he stay based on his unique or his disability or his different abilities. Pick your term, right? Like if I called a brother and said, "Hey, my house is burned down. I need a place to stay," and they told me, "Well, you can stay with John Smith," and John Smith lives on the top floor of an apartment building and there's no elevator, I might be kind of annoyed at that. I would appreciate it, but I would still hope that he would think about my abilities. And it doesn't have to be in a wheelchair. Maybe he's just an older person who can't handle stairs very well, whatever it might be, right? So that's safety, figuring out how we can get those immediate needs dealt with, making sure the person is safe, has medical attention, and knows that there are places he can go to meet his basic needs in that emergency situation. Um, and this may seem like common sense, but in that moment, it may not feel like common sense, especially if you're struggling. I think early in my Masonic career, I actually received a phone call from a brother out of Toronto. He was suffering from dementia, and I don't know, I never learned how he got to Windsor, but he was living in a nursing home, an assisted care home in Windsor. He thought that he was being kidnapped because he didn't recognize the place or the people or how he got there. Somehow he remembered he was a Mason, and he remembered the Masonic distress call. So he gives me a call and he gives me that distress call. Doesn't give me any other information other than that, not even his name. But I managed to get the phone number by like dialing back. Found out he was in a care home. Went to visit him in the care home. Didn't remember giving me a call, but spoke to his the nursing staff there. Checked out the room he was in. Um, Kind of chatted him a bit about Freemasonry. Even though he had dementia, he remembered his Masonic obligations, which was pretty impressive. Didn't remember how he got to Windsor, but remembered his Masonic obligations. And I went to and visited him a few more times after that. But again, that was one of those moments of, okay, I'm trying to figure out, is this person safe in the moment? Does this person have food, water, shelter, and medical assistance, all of which he did have? I checked those things when I was there. He didn't need emergency medical attention, but there was doctors and nurses on staff. And I tried to respect the norms of his age and just recognizing that he's older and he's struggling a bit. But that was one of those moments of really, for that psychological first aid response, it was really just about the safety aspect beyond anything else. He's distressed. He feels like he's been kidnapped because he can't remember what's happened to him. He has dementia. So, I need to make sure he's safe. I need to make sure he's living somewhere that is safe, that he has food and water and shelter, that he can get medical attention if he needs it, and that I respect just the fact that he's going through a challenging time. So there are all sorts of ways, EA Freemason. You're not wrong. But the second step after 5 elements of, so after the safety element is dealt with, so again, going back, brother has lost his home in a fire. I've made sure he's safe, has a place to go, has access to resources, and does not need medical attention. The next thing I want to do is make sure, as much as I can, this brother is calm. Um, I want to be calm in my interactions, even if the person is being difficult, which sometimes can happen. I got quite used to being yelled at as a probation officer. Not all the time, but it happened. And people are being mean to you. You need to be calm back to them. Um, right. Provide a calm environment. So if I can, and I'm able to, like, let's say I end up going to meet them where their house burned down, can I move them as far away from the fire as necessary or the burned house so they're not always being reminded of it? While, not moving them so far that they can't get access to the fire department or the ambulances if they need it, or they're around their family, but so they're not looking at their house burning down type of thing. They're looking at me or somebody around who's a friendly face. Listen to people who wish to share their story, but don't pressure them. They don't have to share anything they don't want to. They don't have to tell me how the fire started or what happened. It's just enough that I'm there and calm. Offer accurate information about the crisis event. The big key there is accurate information. Don't guess. That's why, one thing they say is, look, if somebody's going through a psychological challenging time, don't try to diagnose them or give them some diagnosis or whatever it is. Like, I think you're suffering from X or Y, because that's not your place. You're not a doctor. You could very likely get it wrong. And providing inaccurate information is way worse than providing no information. Same thing if they say, like, when will the fire be out? Don't say, well, 5 minutes, because you don't know that. Just say, it will be out when it's out, but I can't know when it will be out, right? One of the worst, and this was something I experienced as a probation officer as well. If somebody asks me something, and I don't know the answer, like they ask me what's going to happen with my kids in CAS, if I tell them you're going to be fine and they're not fine, well, now I'm a liar. What I can say to them is, I don't know what's going to happen, but here are some things that you can do that can maybe help the situation. But you never want to offer inaccurate information. And if you get something wrong, like maybe I say to him, call 555-1234. That's the phone number for the benevolence director or chair in our lodge. He will help get you some money to keep you, in maybe a hotel while you're looking for a new home. I can do that. And let's say I get the phone number wrong and it's 555-1243. Just tell him, I'm sorry, I was incorrect. I got that messed up. But always try to give accurate information, and don't guess. That is one of the worst things you can do, in my experience, again, as a probation officer. Provide information on coping strategies if he wants them. If he doesn't want them, again, if he just wants to sit, then sit. But if he wants to do breathing exercises, things like that, why not try to do that, right? I always preferred boxed breathing. That's 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That always was, in my experience, a really excellent way to cope with challenging times. Connectedness, help people contact loved ones. So again, for psychological first aid, John Smith, his home has burned down. He calls you as a Mason. You're talking to him. Maybe you go to his place, go to his burned house, and are meeting with him while the fire efforts are going on, or whatever it is. Does he have a family that he needs to contact? Can you help him? Maybe he doesn't have his cell phone with him. Maybe his cell phone was in the house. Or maybe he contacted you through maybe he contacted you through his cell phone, but his cell phone is dying, the battery's dying. Whatever it is, maybe, his hands are shaking so much he's really struggling to dial. Help him dial the phone to contact whoever he needs to contact. Make sure his families are together. If there's information that he needs to share about where his kids are, his family is, help him make those calls, establish connections. Again, establish connections to the lodge. Who in the Masonic Lodge can help him with benevolence funds, can help him find people he needs to speak to, whatever that might be. And again, provide accurate information and direct people to the appropriate services if you know them. And this is one of those things, this is why one thing I always say is I think every Masonic Lodge should have information on a brother's emergency contact info, because John Smith has a heart attack in lodge. He's struggling, he's struggling in lodge. He has a heart attack in lodge. He ends up in the hospital. Does the lodge have emergency contact information in terms of where he can go to emergency contact information, so they can call his wife, call his kids, call whoever it is they need to say, hey, we need to connect you to the fact that John Smith has had a heart attack. John Smith is in the hospital. This is the hospital he's in. This is what we know. This is what we don't know. We provide accurate information. We don't know how well he's going to be, or we don't know if he's going to be okay or not okay. All we know is he was picked up by the doctors or picked up by the ambulance and is presently at this hospital. But that's this idea of, in that case, you're really providing psychological first aid to the family. You've contacted them. You've said, hey, John Smith has had a heart attack. Now you're practicing psychological first aid with the family, more particularly connectedness. You're helping to keep the family together because you've let the family know where they can find him, which is a really important thing and a really big deal. Self and group efficacy, which is a good thing, Dad. It's a good thing to do. Self-efficacy is an individual's belief that his or her actions are likely to lead to realistic positive outcomes. Group efficacy is a sense that one belongs to a group that is likely to experience positive outcomes. To promote self and group efficacy, do the following: engage people in meeting their own needs, provide information that will help them with decision making, help to prioritize problems and collaborate to find solutions, support people's decisions. So talk to them about, what do they want? They've had this fire. Where do they want to go? Who do they want to talk to? Who do they need to talk to? Provide them information, let them know, okay, for example, this is the benevolence person in our lodge. Do you want to contact them? If they say no, that's fine, but you've given them the information so they can contact them themselves if they so desire. And you support their decisions, whether they want to contact the benevolence chair or not. Whether they want to get a hotel or stay with a brother. It's up to them to make those decisions. You can't force them to make decisions that you may think are better. And finally, provide them with hope. Cultivate their strength. Acknowledge the extent of their loss. So acknowledge the fact that, yes, you've been through a big loss. Your house is burned down. That's a huge deal. And there's going to be some grief with that, but also acknowledge that there are things they can do to deal with this situation, and that they can be okay. Right? You want to provide psychological first aid to any distressed person who has been exposed to a crisis event. This includes adults, adolescents, and children, as well as disaster relief workers. However, if they don't want to talk, they don't want any assistance or help, then that is their right, and you have to respect their wishes. It's the same way with first aid. What I was taught in first aid is, if somebody's having a heart attack, let's say, and they say, I don't want any help, even me as someone who's trained in first aid, I can't force them to receive help. What I can do is call 911 and say, hey, this person I believe is having a heart attack, but he doesn't want any help or assistance from me. I can still call 911, but I have to respect his wishes and not offer actual first aid. If they say, get away from me, you got to get away from me. The one exception is if somebody's having a heart attack, let's say, and they say, I don't want any help, even me as someone who's trained in first aid, I can't force them to receive help. What I can do is call 911 and say, hey, this person I believe is having a heart attack, but he doesn't want any help or assistance from me. I can still call 911, but I have to respect his wishes and not offer If they are passed out, if they are not talking or not communicating in any way, then consent is assumed. So if John Smith is, let's say, having some type of heart attack or whatever it is, says, "Get away from me, I don't want you around," you call 911, but you stay away. But if he then passes out on the ground and is not communicating and is not breathing, now there's assumed consent, and now you can perform CPR, even if he told you before to get away from him. Um, but with psychological first aid, obviously that's not going to be a situation where the guy's going to be passed out. So you're not going to be providing psychological first aid to somebody who can't communicate. So it's up to them and whether they want to talk to you or not. You're not wrong, Mr. Keeps on Ticking. That's a very good idea and a very good thing to do is write down all those items. I do that for not all my items, but I do that for my Masonic items. And I'm very proud of that fact. And I wish more Masons did that. A lot of Masons will either just not mention Masonic items in their insurance at all. They'll just say general property insurance worth X amount and not list the contents. Or they'll say Masonic items but not list what they are or take pictures of them. Which to me is not a healthy thing, or not a safe thing. So when you provide psychological first aid during or immediately after a crisis event, as well as during the recovery period. So for example, John Smith had his home burned down. He calls you while it's burning. You're providing psychological first aid at that point. But then you're also going to provide it perhaps later if maybe he has developed PTSD, he's having trouble sleeping, he's having nightmares, whatever it is, and he's calling people to ask for support, maybe even months after the fire. You're still providing the same. Hello, Nikai. Thank you for being here. Where PFA should be provided in a safe setting, keep in mind that for some, this means a quiet and private place, or it could mean someplace public. So, the example I provided, John Smith's house is burning down. You actually go there to talk to him. Don't talk to him in front of the house that is burning down. Get him away from the burning down house, somewhere that's safe, that's not gonna, that not gonna cause him or you to be stuck in a fire of some sort. And have him looking away from it as well, obviously, so he's not seeing it if you can. He may want to keep looking at it, and you can't force him, but you can try. You can just talk to him and hope he looks away from it. But look, we all think we're tough. I think men especially, we like to think we're tough, and whatever else, and we can handle ourselves. I'm a pussy, so I can't do that to save my life. But if John Smith is really struggling and having a really hard time, and maybe he's even expressed kind of thoughts of harming himself, harming others, whatever it is, obviously you want to call the police and 911, but you're also not going to want to just walk into his house and just, where no one can see what's happening and maybe he's got a weapon or something, right? Be safe, be careful. Maybe the best place to meet and talk to somebody is in a public place because you need to keep yourself safe as well, not just, right? And that's true for even physical first aid. Like, thank heavens my first aid kit has, because this is what I was taught in my first aid training. We have, let me see if I can find it now. Just give me 1 second. It's in here. A mouth guard. So if somebody, I don't know them at all, I've never met them before, and they have, it's this here, they are on the ground not breathing. I will, because I have a mouth guard, I will give them mouth-to-mouth first aid resuscitation as part of the first aid. But if I don't know them and I don't have that mouth guard, I'm not going to give them mouth to mouth. I'm just going to give them the standard 30, 30 compressions. And hopefully there's an AED there as well that I can use. The point is, you have to consider your own safety as well when you're doing this. And that includes not putting yourself in a situation that could be dangerous for you. Um, so the who, the when, and the where all matters in terms of what you're providing to somebody. You may encounter situations where people require immediate additional care above what you can provide. There's nothing wrong with trying to be, an adult about this stuff, recognizing you can't do everything. So again, John Smith calls. He's been in a fire. You go to see him. Uh, does he require emergency medical care? Did he suffer from smoke inhalation? Is he cut? Is he bruised? Make sure 911 is called. If he's having difficulty, so let's say there's a Freemason, and I've known some of these Freemasons. I once knew a Freemason who was in the shower and he slipped and he fell. And he was basically 3 days in his bathtub because he didn't have the leg strength to get himself out. There's, in that type of psychological first aid, what you're really focused on there, at least what we as Freemasons focused on, was the first one, basic needs and safety. We made sure that he got a life alert bracelet, so if he falls again, he can press it and get help. We made sure that his bathtub had grab bars that he could use to lift himself up. We made sure he had a bench, because he didn't have any of these things, and that was our fault as our lodge for not checking in on him more regularly. But make sure he had like a bench or a seat in the bathtub so that he could, sit while taking a bath, and try to call him a few more times just to see how he's doing and make sure it doesn't happen again. So, but again, we needed to do that in line with professionals and doctors and physiotherapists to make sure everything that was being put in up to code and correctly. And if the person is a threat to themselves or others, again, don't be Mr. Tough Guy and think I'm just going to go walk into this guy's house who's talking about hurting me or hurting other people or hurting himself. I'm going to call 911 and make sure that we are trying to keep him safe. And that means calling 911. Yeah, he was in there for 3 days. He fell on Saturday morning, and we found him Monday morning. What happened is he would organize the coffee club, is what we called it. Somebody else is doing it now. But at the time, he was organizing the morning coffee clubs. He would come in the morning and set the coffee out for people. We get there Monday. He's not there. Nobody knew anything. We called his apartment complex and said, is so-and-so there? Can you check on him? We called him first, no answer. We called him again, no answer. We called his superintendent. We said, look, so-and-so lives at this address, this apartment number. Can you go check on him? They wouldn't give us any information because we weren't listed as a next of kin, which I think has been now changed. But they did say, look, we'll go check on him. And it turns out, yeah, he'd been there all of Saturday, all of Sunday, and until Monday morning. But we made sure to get those things for him. And again, that is, you might not think of it, but that's an example of psychological first aid. First, going to call somebody to get him assistance, and then following up with making sure his safety needs are met in future. You are absolutely right, EA Freemason. The goal of what I was taught in first aid is the goal of CPR is not to get the person necessarily breathing again on their own or anything like that, but rather the purpose of it is to keep the blood circulating as long as is necessary in order that when the ambulances arrive, they have the capacity to care for, and they can bring the person back. I once heard a story of somebody who had this was told to me during my first aid training. Somebody suffered a heart attack um, while at like an amusement park. There was some issue where there was one way to enter the amusement park, and there was a train that went, through that road. And as a result, there was this really long train. Basically, it took an hour for the ambulance to arrive. For that entire hour, they kept on doing CPR on the individual who had the heart attack. At no point during that hour did he start breathing on his own. At no point during that hour did he just, have one of those movie moments of sitting up and, saying I'm fine. But because they kept on doing the CPR for an hour, they kept the blood pumping through that whole hour. They kept the blood going to his brain. They kept the oxygen moving through the body. When the ambulance got there, they were actually able to use an AED and bring him back without suffering any. I'm sure he suffered psychological effects and physical effects, but he was okay. He made a full recovery. And imagine if during that hour, at any given point, the people giving the CPR had just given up because they said it's been 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and it's not working. He's not coming back to life. Therefore, we're just going to quit and give up. He probably would have died, right? He almost certainly would have died. But luckily, the people doing it knew that they weren't doing the CPR to get him to just start talking again and breathing again and communicative. They were doing the CPR to buy as much time as necessary in order to make sure that the ambulance had a fighting chance. And again, an hour of CPR was an hour of blood rushing, an hour of oxygen rushing, and it ended up being a success. So you never want, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. That's what the instructor said. He said one of the biggest problems with movies and TV shows is they make you think if you're giving CPR and within 5 minutes the person doesn't come back to life, the CPR wasn't working, which is not the case. The CPR is absolutely working and doing what it's supposed to, which is keeping the blood and the oxygen traveling. It is. You want to remember, different people provide care at different times, depending largely on the person or people in need of support. Support can be provided by organizations, including Masonic lodges of various sizes and types. For crisis events that affect large groups of people, support is provided by relief agencies at a national, regional, local level. In Canada, we have emergency management at every level. On an individual level, a provider of care could be a trusted friend, family member, co-worker, humanitarian worker, trained in PFA, or a Masonic Lodge brother doing the same. And welcome, by the way, if everybody is having a good time. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know what your thoughts are on these topics, if you think they are, if it's making sense to you. Mr. Keeps on Ticking, Courtney, let me know if what I'm saying makes sense to you, you think, or if you might have some different potential ideas. Or if you think some of these things even make sense for, let's say, a church environment. Well, that's why they were saying you always want to have two people performing it if you can. So you do 30 compressions, breathe for yourself, 30 more compressions, breathe for yourself. But if you have two people, you can alternate the 30 compressions, then the other person does it, then you do it. Certainly if I ever find myself, and I hope I never do, but if I ever find myself needing to provide CPR, I'm really hoping there's somebody else there who also knows how to provide CPR. And so we can go back and forth, 30, 30, 30, 30. Because otherwise, like imagine if I had to do CPR for an hour, I would be beyond exhausted at that point. But again, that's why you want to keep yourself in good physical shape as well, so that you can, do those things if you need to. But yeah, so that's why I also say, like, it's good to have one person in a Masonic lodge who is trained in first aid, it's better to have two people trained in first aid so you can jump back and forth. But that's also what we talk about when I was talking about taking care of yourself and why it's so important to take care of yourself. Um, one of the biggest dangers that we can have is like they say, so let's say you're not breathing for the person, you don't know them, you don't have a mouth guard or whatever it is. You give 30 breaths, then you take two breaths for yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to faint because you're going to be lost. That's what they taught us. They said 30 breaths, then take two breaths for yourself, then 30 more. Sorry, 30 compressions, then two breaths for yourself, then 30 compressions, then two breaths for yourself. You want to make sure you are taking the time to keep breathing because otherwise, you might pass out. So it's about taking care of yourself. I don't know if it's called Annie. I don't remember the name of if they had a name for the dummy I was practicing on, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. And I was really, like I said, happy to have got it. I'm glad for that. So, going through a couple more of these. Right, PFA, psychological first aid, is part of providing support to those who have experienced a crisis. There are multiple levels of support that work together to care for others. There's basic services and security, right? Basic needs are met. There's community and family support, promoting activities that create and support social connection. Sounds to me like Freemasonry would be a activity that creates and supports social connections and community-based structures and support. There's focused non-specialized support. So maybe John Smith, who suffered the losing his home to a fire, we managed to get his basic services and safety needs met. He's found a place to live. He has received money from the lodge to help him support financially. He has done everything he needs to do in that sense of it. He's not suffering from any long-term injuries from the fire. He's got medical care. Then he's got community and family support. His lodge is there for him. His Masonic brothers are supporting him, making sure he has a place to go. Then he is still suffering from PTSD. Whatever it might be, he's still having a really hard time emotionally. Maybe at that point, you need some additional non-specialized workers in health, education, or community services. So maybe some social workers need to meet with him and talk to him. Maybe he needs to meet with a family doctor or a GP to talk about how he's feeling. And then specialized services. Maybe he needs to talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or some type of specialized medical support. The biggest thing, though, as well, I think we should talk about, and Dad, you mentioned this above, right? The biggest thing for psychological first aid is to do no harm. So that means, yes, we want to provide safety, connectedness, hope, calm, and self-efficacy. We don't want to, debrief with people afterwards and keep checking in on them. This is first aid at the moment or at the moments. This is not long-term thing. It's just like providing physical first aid. I have to provide, let's say I provide CPR for somebody. Once they are passed off to the ambulance and I've answered any questions the ambulance has, I'm not going to go to the hospital and check in on the person that I gave the CPR to. I guess unless I know them already. But if it's a stranger, I'm not going to keep following up with them. That's not my responsibility. I provide the initial first aid, and that's it. They have doctors, nurses, and professionals who do that. Treatment. It's not my job to say, again, with the physical first aid, I don't go to the hospital and say, well, I provided him with CPR, so now here's the course of treatment I think we should take, doctor. That's not my role. In the same way, it's not my job to tell somebody who's having a psychological issue, this is a treatment you should get from this doctor. I can tell them, I think you need to speak to somebody who's a professional, but that's as far as it should go. It's up to them and it's up to the professional to decide on treatment. Obtaining details, I just don't want to be sitting there telling them, like, tell me exactly what happened, or it's up to them to tell me what they want to or not want to tell me. It's not my job to go exploring and diagnosing. It's not my job to diagnose them with the condition, right? It's just my job to make sure they are safe. And if they're not safe, can I assist in getting them to a safe place to make sure they're connected to their Masonic lodge or to the community or to whatever they need to be with, to provide them with a sense of calm, or at least to be calm myself, even if they are not calm, to provide them with some type of hope. Again, oftentimes I can just be by being there and listening and by providing a sense of calm, and self-efficacy, providing accurate information that I know that can help them with resources. So for example, this is the phone number you can call if you want to call to get some benevolence, to help you through this rough patch while your house is rebuilt or you find a new house. And again, all of this is available for $20 through the Canadian Red Cross, and I'm sure Texas has its own stuff as well. So, for example, let's ask this question. Let's see how correct I may have got it, or how good a job I've done explaining myself. By the way, once again, I apologize for the work happening outside. Okay, so, oops. So you arrive, John Smith has called you, my house is burned down. You go there to talk to him. For some reason, I can't get this to work. You go there to talk to him and to try to provide some psychological first aid in this scenario, which you should get your training for. Don't pretend that this is training. It's not. Red Cross provides excellent, excellent training. Okay, well, this is not working. Let's try to go to the live stream. What should you do? What should you not do? The questions are, should you not try to find and connect him with other family members? Should you not listen to him while he shares how he's feeling about the loss of his home? Or should you not diagnose him with some type of mental health condition as he's expressing the way he's feeling, and the sadness he's feeling? So once again, you've gone to see a brother whose house is burned down. What should you not do? Should you not try to help him find his family members to reconnect with them? Should you not listen to him while he shares how he's feeling? Or should you not diagnose him with some type of mental health condition like PTSD as he's expressing himself? And the answer is 3. You should not diagnose him. You should not say to him, I think you have PTSD, whatever it is. That's not your role to diagnose him. That's a professional's role. What you can do, however, is help him connect with family members, maybe help him dial the phone if his hands are shaking, or help him find a number to call if he needs to call his wife or kids or whatever it is. And you should listen to him while he talks about how he's feeling in a non-judgmental manner. So, and then make sure you're doing no harm. Make sure you are protecting yourself as well as the person you're talking to, respecting yourself and the person you're speaking to, right? Honor the person's right to services and support, but also honor their right to not want help if they don't want it. Let's say you know a Freemason's house burned down, and you go to him and you say, hey, if you ever want to talk, I'm here for you. And he says, no, I don't want to talk. You need to respect his right to not talk to you and honor his right to not talk to you. One thing about Freemasons, I think, Courtney, I'm sure you're like this. I'm sure even non-Freemasons are like this. Like Mr. Keeps on Ticking, right? We want to be there. We want to help. And sometimes when somebody doesn't want our help, it can really make us feel like, why won't you just accept our help? We're trying to help you, blah, blah, blah. That's not our job. We need to respect their right to want help or not want help. Either one, we should be respectful of. Integrity, be honest, don't lie. If you don't know, just say you don't know, right? John Smith, how long will it take them to rebuild my house that's burned down? Don't lie to them and say, 20 minutes, it'll be back up and running. Just say, I don't know. But I do know that there are some things we can do to help you in the interim if you want, or there's some things you can do to help yourself during this challenging time. Dignity, again, respect their decisions, and empathy. Listen and show you care. I'm not always the best at being empathetic myself. A lot of people would say I'm actually pretty terrible at being empathetic, but I'm trying. Maybe I fail, but I try. And by the way, for this stream, even, the reason I also want to take psychological first aid is not just for Freemasonry. It's for this stream. It's for knowing that I would be able to say, if somebody does jump on the stream and says, I'm going through a really hard time right now. I'm really struggling. I don't think I'm going to be okay. That I can say to them, I'm sorry you're going through some struggling. I've taken psychological first aid. Here's maybe some thoughts I have or some things I want to check on or whatever it is. So to know that somebody can jump on the stream, express that they're going through psychological trauma or going through a crisis event, and that I will be comfortable and able to speak to them. Hello, Ryan. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. I got your message. No worries. I ended up not going to it myself, but I will try to go later. So you're always invited. Um, and I hope that I look forward to seeing you. And I do want to make it back to Coffee Club. I may actually, because I'm doing the live chat starting tomorrow at 2 p.m., and it's going 24 hours, I may actually bring the phone with me and go to Coffee Club first thing in the morning before anybody's there, because I don't want anybody on the stream who doesn't want to be on the stream, but maybe say hello to Michelle on the actual live stream itself. That could be a lot of fun. We are going to be doing this for another 15 minutes, and then guess where I will be? That is correct. I will be on Instagram. So I hope that you guys will join me there. I do hope, though, once again, everybody is doing well. If you're not done so yet, please take a moment, hit that like button and subscribe button, and let me know how you are doing. It is not. So it is through my Instagram account. So you can get an Instagram account. It's free. It's a lot of fun. I love Instagram. Yesterday was World Photography Day. So the benefit of having an Instagram account is you can see all of my photographs of my Masonic journeys or journey through the years, celebrating Freemasonry through photography. I think is really, really cool. And once again, forgive me for the sound of the work happening across the way from me. Hopefully, it's not too loud tomorrow. And hopefully, you guys all join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. But in about 15 minutes, I'm going to be on the Instas. Because again, I think it's important that we try as many new things as we possibly can. Thank you. Yeah, I love sharing that stuff. It's really, really special. Um, and it's just great to have the capacity to share these things. Okay, I will pass on the word. If you're going to coffee club, don't use the back doors. Um, I I always go through the front doors. I personally think it's better to use the front doors, just because there's so much equipment down there now. I think it's wonderful that we have the ballroom space being used for plays and being used so much more. I think that makes it really, really cool. And I've loved seeing the plays that I have seen there. I've seen a few, and the sound equipment and the lighting, but I also don't want to go through the back and roll over a cord. And next thing I know, I've damaged, $1,000 piece of equipment. So I'm very hesitant about that myself. I tend to prefer to go through the front doors now. Just my advice. So, Ryan, if you don't have Instagram, get yourself some Insta. Get yourself some Instagram. It's worth it, I promise. They do, so I don't want to wheel through while they're having an exam and you know, potentially interfere with their research. I know how expensive school can be, so I don't want to, like I said, find myself in a situation where I'm interfering or breaking their concentration or anything like that. And it's really, I understand there are some older Masons who may need the back doors, but as a rule, it's really not that hard to, uh, um, it's really not that hard, in my opinion, to head around to the front. All right, so we got about 10 minutes to go. Then I will be on Instagram. I'll just give you my Instagram page so you can find it. If you're already following me thereon, you should be okay. You should be able to just get a notification and find it right away. But if for whatever reason you're not following me yet, which why would you not follow me on Instagram? Let me just see if I can leave the link. You probably can't click on the link, but you can copy and paste the link and you can find it that way. And honestly, I'm going to be talking about psychological first aid on that stream as well. So, but it's instagram.com/square_and_compass_promotions, where I currently have 591 followers. So I'm hoping maybe this stream will get a few more. And then I am going to have a stream at 1 a.m. this morning, but it's going to be a very brief stream. It's not going to be long at all because I need to get my rest in preparation for tomorrow, 2 p.m. But all right, I think I will end this stream now. So I will see everybody hopefully on my Instagram in approximately 5 to 10 minutes. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great night or great day, I should say. And maybe I'll see you on Instagram. If not, I look forward to seeing you on. Oh, I did. So I'll show you some of the snacks I got in preparation for tomorrow. I'm going to buy some more today, though. Um, so I got some chocolate bars. I got some protein bars. I got some Ensure Plus calories because I found one issue when I was doing the 24-hour stream is I wanted to be able to eat stuff quickly or get calories in me quickly so that I could, keep chatting. And the Ensure is a good way to do that. And it's also healthy for you. So there is that as well. So yeah, so that's just some of what I got. I'm gonna pick up a few more things tonight. I got some Coke. I'm gonna be drinking lots of coffee. So Coca-Cola, for the record, for everybody watching this. Um, and I hope, if nothing else, this may have encouraged some of you guys to consider joining our to consider taking psychological first aid training, which is not that expensive, at least not that expensive here in Canada. All right, jumping off stream. I'll be on the other stream very soon. Thank you guys so much. It's great. It's super easy. It's super, what's the word? It's incredibly convenient. So yeah. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.